Okay, so let's read 48 Laws of Power from third law. This is first law, this is second law, and this is third law. Okay. Law 3. Conceal your intentions, judgment. Keep people off balance and in the dark by never revealing the purpose behind your actions. If they have no clue what you are up to, they cannot prepare a defense. Guide them far enough down the wrong path. Envelop them in enough smoke, and by the time they realize your intentions, it will be too late. Keys to power. Do not be held a cheat, even though it is impossible to live today without being one. Let your greatest cunning lie in covering up what looks like cunning. Baltasar Garcian, 1608, 1601 to 1655. Keys to power. Most people are open books. They say what they feel, blurt out their opinions at every opportunity, and constantly reveal their plans and intentions. They do this for several reasons. First, it is easy and natural to always want to talk about one's feelings and plans for the future. It takes effort to control your tongue and monitor what you reveal. Second, many believe that by being honest and open, they are winning people's hearts and showing their good nature. They are greatly deluded. Honesty is actually a blunt instrument which bloodies more than it cuts. Your honesty is likely to offend people. It is much more prudent to tailor your words, telling people what they want to hear rather than the coarse and ugly truth of what you feel or think. More important, by being un- unabashedly open, you make yourself so predictable and familiar that it is most impossible to respect or fear you, and power will not occur to a person who cannot inspire such emotions. If you yearn for power, quickly lay honesty aside and train yourself in the art of concealing your intentions. Master the art, and you will always have the upper hand. Basic to an ability to conceal one's intentions is a simple truth about human nature. Our first instinct is to always trust appearances. We cannot go around doubting the reality of what we see and hear. Constantly imagining that appearances concealed something else would exhaust and terrify us. This fact makes it relatively easy to conceal one's intentions. Simply dangle an object you seem to desire, a goal you seem to aim for, in front of people's eyes, and they will take the appearance for reality. So, being an honest, it will ruin my power. Okay, where was it? Our first is this. Hmm. If you yearn for power, quickly lay honesty aside and train yourself in the art of concealing your intentions. Okay. Master the art, and you will always have the upper hand. Basic to an ability to conceal one's intention is a simple truth about human nature. Our first instinct is to always trust appearances. We cannot go around doubting the reality of what we see and hear, constantly imagining that appearances concealed something else would exhaust and terrify us. This fact makes it relatively easy to conceal one's intentions. Simply dangle an object you seem to desire, a goal you a goal you seem to aim for, in front of people's eyes, and they will take the appearance of reality. One way to hide your intention is to talk endlessly about your desires and goals, just not your real ones. You will kill three birds with one stone. You appear friendly, open, and trusting. You conceal your intentions, and you send your rivals on time consuming wild goose chases. Okay, I'm repeating it. One way to hide your intention is to talk endlessly about your desires and goals, just not your real ones. You will kill three birds with one stone. You appear friendly, open, and trusting. You conceal your intentions, and you send your rivals on time consuming wild goose chases. Another powerful tool in throwing people off the scent is false sincerity. Another po- Another powerful tool in throwing people off the scent is false sincerity. People easily mistake sincerity for honesty. Seeing to believe what you say gives your words great weight. This is how Logo deceived and this is how Iago deceived and destroyed Othello. Given the depth of his emotions, the apparent sincerity of his concerns about Desde- Desdemona's supposed infidelity, how could Othello distrust him? I didn't get this point. Another powerful tool in throwing people off Another powerful tool in throwing people off the scent is false sincerity. People easily mistake sincerity for honesty, seeming to believe what you say gives your words great weight. This is how Iago deceived and destroyed Othello. Given the depth of his emotions, the apparent sincerity of his concerns about Desdemona's Desdemona's supposed infidelity, how could Othello distrust him? If you believe that deceivers are colorful folk who mislead with elaborate lies and tall tales, you are greatly mistaken. The best deceivers utilize a bland and inconspicuous front that calls no attention to themselves. They know that extravagant words and gestures immediately raise suspicion. Instead, they develop their targets in the familiar, the banal, and the harmless. Once you have lulled people's once you have lulled people's attention with the familiar, they will not notice the deception being uh, perpetrated behind their backs. The grayer and more uniform the smoke in your smoke screen, the better it conceals your intentions. The simplest form of smoke screen is facial expression. Behind a bland, unreadable exterior, all sorts of mayhem can be planned without detection. This is a weapon that the most powerful men in history have. In history have learned to perfect. It was said that no one could read Franklin D. Roosevelt's face. Baron James Rothschild made a lifelong practice of disguising his real thoughts behind bland smiles and nondescript looks. Remember, it takes patience and humanity to dull your brilliant colors, to put on the mask of the inconspicuous. Do not despair at having to wear such a bland mask. It is often your underability that draws people to you and makes you appear a person of power. Image. A sheep's skin. A sheep never uh, marauds. A sheep never deceives. A sheep is significantly dumb and docile. With a sheepskin on his back, a fox can pass right into the chicken shop. Authority have authority. Have you ever heard of a skillful general who intends to surprise a citadel, announcing his plan to his enemy? Conceal your purpose and hide your progress. Do not disclose the context of your design until they cannot be opposed, until the combat is over. Win the victory before you declare the war. In a word, imitate those warlike people. Those designs are not known except by the ravaged country to which they have passed. Ninan de uh, Al Anclus 1623 to 1706. Law 4. Always say less than necessary. Judgment. When you are trying to impress people with words, the more you say, the more common you appear, and the less in control. Even if you are saying something banal, it will see it will seem original if you make it vague, open-minded, and sphinx-like. 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 Sphinxlike. Sphinx-like. Powerful people impress and intimidate by saying less. The more you say, the more likely you are to say something foolish. Keys to power. Power is in many ways a game of appearances, and when you say less than necessary, you inevitably appear greater and more powerful than you are. Your silence will make other people uncomfortable. Humans are machines of interpretation and explanation. They have to know what you are thinking. When you carefully control what you reveal, they cannot pierce your intentions or your meaning. Your short answers and silences will put them on the defensive and they will jump in, nervously filling the silence with all kinds of comments that will reveal valuable information about them and their weaknesses. They will leave a meeting with you feeling as if they had been robbed, and they will go home and ponder your every word. This extra attention this extra attention to your brief comments will only add to your power. As a young man, the artist Andy Warhol had the revelation that it was generally impossible to get people to do what you wanted them to do by talking to them. They would turn against you, subvert your wishes, disobey you out of sheer perversity. He once told a friend, I learned that you actually have more power than you shut up. In his later life, Warhol employed this strategy with great success. His interviews were exercises in oracular speech. He would say something vague and ambiguous, and the interviewer would twist in circles trying to figure it out, imagining there was something profound behind his often meaningless phrases. Warhol rarely talked about his work. He let others do the interpreting. The less he said about his work, the more people talked about it, and the more they talked, the more valuable his work became. By saying less than necessary, you create the appearance of meaning and power. Also, the less you say, the less risk you run of saying something foolish, even dangerous. In 1825, a new Tsar, Nicholas I, ascended the throne of Russia. A rebellion immediately broke out, led by liberals demanding that the country modernize, that its industries and civil structures catch up with the rest of the Europe. Brutally crushing this rebellion, the Decembrist uprising, Nicholas I sentenced one of its leaders, Kondra, Kondraty Rylev, of its leaders, Kondraty Rylev, to death. On the day of the execution, Rylev stood on the gallows, the noose around his neck. The trapdoor opened, but as Rylev dangled, the rope broke in, dashing him to the ground. At the time, events like this were considered signs of providence or heavenly will, and a man saved from execution this way was usually pardoned. As Rylev got to his feet, bruised and dirtied, but revealing his neck had been saved, he called out to the crowd, You see, in Russia they don't know how to do anything properly, not even how to make a rope. A messenger immediately went to the Winter Palace with news of the failed hanging. Vexed by this disappointing turnabout, Nicholas I nevertheless began to sign the pardon, but then did Ryleaf say anything after his miracle? The Caesar asked the messenger, Sir. The messenger replied, He said that in Russia they don't even know how to make rope. In that case, said the Caesar, let us prove the contrary, and he tore up the pardon. The next day Ryleaf was hanged again. This time the rope did not break. Learn the lesson. Once the words are out, you cannot take them back. Keep them under control. Be particularly careful with sarcasm. The momentary satisfaction you gain with your biting words will be outweighed by the price you pay. Image. The oracle at Delphi. When visitor consulted the oracle, the priestess would utter a few enigmatic words that seemed full of meaning and import. No one disobeyed the words of the oracle. They held power over life and death. Authority. Never start moving your own lips and teeth before the subordinates do. The longer I keep quiet, the sooner others move their lips and teeth. As they move their lips and teeth, I can thereby understand their real intentions. If the sovereign is not mysterious, the ministers will find opportunity to take and take. Han Fizhu, Chinese philosopher, 3rd century BC. Law 5. So much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life. Judgment. Reputation is the cornerstone of power. Though reputation alone, you can intimidate and win. Once it slips, however, you are vulnerable and will be attacked on all sides. Make your reputation unassailable. Unassailable. Make your reputation unassailable. Always be alert to potential attacks and thwart them before they happen. Meanwhile, learn to destroy your enemies by opening holes in their own reputations. Then stand aside and let public opinion hang them. Wow. Keys to power. The people around us, even our closest friends, will always to some extent remain mysterious and unfathomable. Their characters have secret recesses at that they never reveal. The unknowableness. The unknowableness of other people could prove disturbing if we thought about it long enough, since it would make it impossible for us really to judge other people. So we prefer to ignore this fact and to judge people on their appearances, on what is most visible to eyes, clothes, gestures, words, actions. In the social realm, appearances are the barometer of almost all of our judgments, and you must never be misled into believing otherwise. One false slip, one awkward or sudden change in your appearance can prove disastrous. This is the reason for the supreme importance of making and maintaining a reputation that is of your own creation. That reputation will protect you in the dangerous game of appearances, distracting the robbing eyes of others from knowing that what you are really like, and giving you a degree of control over how the world judges you, a powerful position to be in. In the beginning, you must work to establish a reputation for one understanding quality, whether generosity or honesty or cunning. This quality sets you apart and gets other people to talk about you. You then make your reputation known to as many people as possible. Subtly, though, take care to build slowly and with a firm foundation, and watch as it spreads like wildfire. A solid reputation increases your presence and exaggerates your strengths without your having to spend much energy. It can also create an aura around you that will instill respect, even fear. In the fighting in the North African desert during World War II, the German general Erwin Rommel had a reputation for cunning and for deceptive maneuvering that struck terror into everyone who faced him. Even when his forces were depleted, and when British tanks outnumbered his by 5 to 1, entire cities would be evacuate, evacuate, evacuated evacuated at the news of his approach. Make your reputation simple and base it on one sterling quality. This single quality, efficiency, say, or seductiveness, becomes a kind of calling card that announces your presence and places others under a spell. Reputation is a treasure to be carefully collected and hoarded. Especially when you are first establishing it, you must protect it strictly, anticipating all attacks on it. Or once it is solid, do not let yourself get angry or defensive at the slanderous comments of your enemies. That reveals insecurity, not confidence. In your reputation, take the high road instead and never appear desperate in your self-defense. On the other hand, an attack on another man's reputation is a potent weapon, particularly when you have less power than he does. Hmm. So you must not attack a person who is more powerful and more reputable than you. He has much more to lose in such a battle, and your own thus far small reputation gives him a small target when he tries to return your fire. But this tactic must be practiced with skill. You must not seem to engage in petty vengeance. If you do not break your enemy's reputation cleverly, you will inadvertently ruin your own. Exactly. If you don't know how to do it skillfully, you will ruin your own life. Never go too far in your attacks, for that will draw more attention to your vengefulness than to the person you are slandering. When your own reputation is solid, use subtle tactics such as satire, and ridicule to weaken your opponent while making you out as a charming rogue. The mighty lion toys with the mouse that crosses his path. Any other reaction would mar his fearsome reputation. Image: a mine full of diamonds and rubies. You dug for it, you find it, and your wealth is now assured. Guard it with your life. Robbers and thieves will appear from all sides. Never take your wealth for granted and constantly renew it. Time will diminish the jewels' luster and bury them from sight. Authority. Therefore, I should wish our courtier to bolster up his inherent worth and skill and cunning, and ensure that whenever he has to go where he is a stranger, he is preceded by a good reputation. For the fame which appears to rest on the opinions of many fosters a certain unshakable belief in a man's worth, which is taken easily strengthened in minds already thus disposed and prepared. Baldassar Castiglione, 1478 to 1529. So I have read from Law 3, no? I have started reading from Law 3, 9 page. Okay, I have read 10 pages. So in order to read more 10 pages, I have to Law 8. This is Law 6, Law 7, Law 8. I have to read till Law 8. Okay. Law 6. Court attention. All at all cost. Okay. Judgment. Everything is judged by its appearance. What is unseen counts for nothing. Never let yourself get lost in the crowd, then or buried in oblivion. Stand out. Be conspicuous at all cost. Make yourself a magnet of attention by appearing larger, more colorful, more mysterious than the bland and timid masses. Okay. Keys to power. Burning more brightly than those around you is a skill that no one is born with. You have to learn to attract attention. At the start of your career, you must attach your names and reputation to a quality, an image that sets you apart from other people. This image can be something like a characteristic style of dress or a personality quirk that amuses people and gets talked about. Once the image is established, you have an appearance, a place in the sky for your star. It is a common mistake to imagine that this peculiar appearance of yours should not be controversial, that to be attacked is somehow bad. Nothing could be farther from the truth. To avoid being a flash in the pan and having your notoriety eclipsed by another, you must not discriminate between different types of attention. In the end, every kind will work in your favor. The court of Louis XIV contained many talented writers, artists, great beauties, and men and women of impeccable virtue, but no one was more talked about than the singular Duke de Lauzun. The Duke was short, almost dwarfish, and he was prone to the most insolent kinds of behavior. He slept with the king's mistress and openly insulted not only other courtiers but the king himself. Louis, however, was so beguiled by the duke's eccentricities that he could not bear his absence from the court. It was simple. The strangeness of the duke's character attracted attention. Once people were enthralled by him, they wanted him around at any cost. Wow. So we must have a mysterious character so that people must call us, or people want us in their People want us, we must have a mysterious character so that people want us with them at any cost. Society creates larger than life figures. Wow. People who stand above the general mediocrity, never be afraid then of the qualities that set you apart and draw attention to you. Quote controversy, even scandal, it is better to be attacked, even slandered, than ignored. If you find yourself in a lowly position that offers little opportunity for you to draw attention, an effective trick an effective trick is to attack the most visible, most famous, most powerful person you can find. What the? If you find yourself in a lowly position that offers little opportunity for you to draw attention, an effective trick is to attack the most visible, most famous, most powerful person you can find. When Pietro Aretino, a young Roman several, a young Roman servant boy of the early 16th century, wanted to get attention as a writer of verses, he decided to publish a series of satirical poems ridiculing the Pope and his affection for a pet elephant. The attack put Aretino in the public eye immediately. Okay. So if I want to get famous, I need to do something that attack the person who has more authority and reputation, must be famous. So as a reader, if I want to get famous, I must attack Robert Greene. That would be controversial. I don't want that. I'm reading his books and I don't want to attack him. I mean, the first law says never outshine your master. Okay. A slanderous attack on a person in a position of power would have a similar effect. Remember, however, to use such tactics sparingly after you have the public's attention when the act can wear thin. Once in the limelight, you must constantly renew it by adapting and varying your method of courting attention. If you don't, the public will grow tired, will take you for granted, and will move on to a newer star. The game requires constant vigilance and creativity. Pablo Picasso never allowed himself to fade into the background. If his name became too attached to a particular style, he would deliberately upset the public with a new series of paintings that went against all expectations. Better to create something ugly and disturbing, he believed. What the? This is something interesting. Okay, let's read this again. Once in the limelight, you must constantly renew it by adapting and varying your method of courting attention. Okay, understood here. If you don't, the public will grow tired and will take you for granted. Okay, so this is a and will move to a newer star, obviously. So I must keep this in mind. Okay, once in the limelight, you must constantly renew it by adapting and varying your method of courting attention. If you don't, the public will grow tired, will take you for granted, and will move on to a newer stuff. The game requires constant vigilance and creativity. Okay. Pablo Picasso never allowed himself to fade into the background. Okay. If his name became too attached to a particular style, he would deliberately upset the public with a new series of paintings that went against all expectations. Better to create something ugly and disturbing, he believed that, than to let viewers grow too familiar with his work. Understand, people feel superior to the person whose actions they can predict. If you show them who is in control by playing against their expectations, you both gain their respect and tighten your hold on their fleeting attention. Okay, this is good. This law 6, I really love that, with the example of Pablo Picasso. Image, the limelight, the actor who steps into this brilliant light attains height, height-ended presence. All eyes are on him. There is room for only one actor at a time in the limelight's narrow beam. Do whatever it takes to make yourself its focus. Make your gestures so large, amusing, and scandalous that the light says, on you while the other actors are left in the shadows. Authority. Be ostentatious. Be ostentatious and be seen. What is not seen is as though it did not exist. It was light that first caused all creation to shine forth. Display fills up many blankets, covers up deficiencies, and gives everything a second life, especially when it's backed by genuine merit. Okay, Baltasar Garcian, 1601 to 1658. This is law 7 and this is law 8. Okay, I think from now this is enough for today. I'll read from law 7 next time. But I love this line. Okay, the Pablo Picasso example is one of the best example till now that I have got it. I mean, better to create something ugly and disturbing, he believed, than to let viewers grow too familiar with his work. Understand, people feel superior to the person whose actions they can predict. If you know them who is in control by If you show them who is in control by playing against their expectations, you both gain their respect and tighten your hold on their fleeting attention. Okay, so I really love that law 6. Okay, quote attention at all cost. So, and today the law 5th, right? So much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life. So, in this case, we have to guard our reputation. If the enemy is bigger than our reputation, if the enemy is bigger than ourselves, and if he has more reputation and he is more strong, then we must protect ourselves. Because never go too far in your attacks, for that will draw more attention to your own vengefulness than to the person you are slandering. When your own reputation is solid, use subtle tactics such as satire and ridicule to weaken your opponent while making you out as a charming rogue. The mighty lion toys with the mouse that crosses his path. Any other reaction would mar his fearsome reputation. Okay, so this is law 5th. Now law 4. Always say less than necessary. So if you want to appear mysterious and control, and you want people to listen to you, and you must and you want to create an image in one person's mind that yes, if you are silent, it means something is wrong. I mean, the person draws a deeper attention to your words. Then this is, I think, very important. Also, this law is very good. Okay, once the words, okay, so there is a very good example of Rayleigh, okay, who was hung. Okay, so basically what happened, Rayleigh was hung, but the rope was broke. Okay, then he said that you see, in Russia they don't even know how to make better ropes. Then his pardon was getting rejected again. In Russia they made Romania, Russia, they make a rope, and this time they hung up, but this time the rope didn't break. So the lesson is, once the words are out, you cannot take them back. Keep them under control. So be particularly careful with sarcasm, because the momentary satisfaction you gain with your biting words will be outweighed by the price you pay, and you never know what is the price. So this is 4th law. Always say less than necessary, because sometimes what you say can lead to your death. And number 3, where we have begun our lesson today, reading today. Law 3 is conceal your intentions. You appear friendly, open, and trusting. Okay, so we need to, if we want to appear more, if we want to conceal our intentions, I mean, you are showing different emotion in your face but your intentions are different, then this is what you can do. You appear friendly, open, and trusting, and talk more about your desires but not the real ones. By doing this, people will get confused, like what the hell is this person is talking about. So this is it for today. We have learned today 4 laws, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are the 4 laws that we have learned today. And we will see you next time in another video from Law 7. And this is 48 Laws of Power. See you next time.